Hi, I'm Rue.
Hi, I'm Janelle. Welcome to episode 13 of Cocktails and
Holy
Compliance.
cow, lucky 13 today, everybody.
If you're watching this, you know Rue and I like to twin often when we're dressed up, but I'm like, wow, we look really good today.
Because we're cool like that.
Well, we are, but also we're a little more dressed up than normal. We are having a cocktail here, and then we're going to go have another cocktail.
We are, and I'm really excited about what we're going to do after this. So if you're in Texas and you're a female, there's a national group called Women in Affordable Housing Network, and Texas is starting the chapter. There's a North Texas chapter, and there's a chapter from down in the Houston area. And so this will be the second get together for the North Texas chapter. And it's actually very cool because for every get together that we have, we are going to try to have some type of a charity event as well.
And I started to say, this will be my first happy hour. And then I went, nobody's going to believe that. It'd be my first time to attend this happy hour. So, since we're pre-gaming it, Rue, what are we having today?
Oh, yeah. So, we've had it before. It's one of my favorites. And to be really honest, I had some in my fridge. So today we're going to bring back the Yuengling Hershey's Chocolate Porter. And it is very, very tasty. So cheers, everybody.
Could they hear that in the microphone?
Cheers.
Do it in front of your microphone.
Cheers.
There. Yay.
Yay.
That is
oh
so
my
yummy.
Goodness, it's so good. It tastes like a Hershey bar and a beer.
I know. I think I have that in my fridge too, actually.
You should if you don't.
I'm pretty sure I do. Sorry, we went with convenience. We also were trying not to make a huge mess in studio today because Rue had blackberry bourbon smashes earlier, and I was like, that sounds amazing. And we thought.
Not earlier today, by the way.
Oh, yeah. No, I didn't mean today. My bad. I meant earlier in the week. Thank you for that clarification. You were really quick on that, by the way. You were like, I was at the office. Be quiet.
All right. I guess probably these good people who are joining us want to talk a little bit about affordable housing. What do you think?
Probably so. And, we want to talk about it, too, because we like it.
We do like it.
So we have lots of things to catch you up on. And we're going to start with our favorite topic.
203A.
Whoop, whoop. Yay. 203A.
Kind of the update is there isn't really an update again, right?
I mean, there's a little bit of look, let's be real. Some things haven't changed. Some things. But there have been a couple of... I'm struggling. Yeah. So some things haven't changed, but a couple of things that did happen since the last time I think we had one of these. So we were actually just saying the last time we were in studio was at the end of the year around the holidays. And so technically HOTMA went into effect officially.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, January 1st. Technically. Key word there. Technically. So then February 2nd, HUD released a new version of their Joint Housing Notice 2310. So if you read the last one, this is still the same housing notice if you go to look for it. But they updated a new version of it regarding HOTMA implementation. Okay.
How many more of those do y'all think we're going to get?
Yeah, I don't know. So then at the end of February, I had released a new notice, and this one does have a new number, so it's Notice 2024-04, and it extends the TSP and EIB revision deadline to May 31st.
Hey, 2 months, 2 notices. How about that?
I know. There was activity, Rue. There was activity. So I know previously we had said, hey, you got to, there are things that don't require software updates, and it's things like your TSP and your EIB and policies, getting all your policies and procedures updated. And I believe it had to be done by the end of March, if I remember correctly, but I've slept since then and probably had a cocktail.
It was March.
Thank you. Oh, look at that. I pulled that one out. So then they came back and they said, well, let's extend it to May. So now you have a May 31st deadline for TSP and EIB revision. But the fun thing about that is I think there's still pieces of it that you need your software to be updated and in place before you can actually roll out the changes that you're going to put in your policy. So maybe just put a little caveat in there that says, hey, once we have software, this is going to happen.
By the way, it's not because we're being lazy.
No, it's not that at all. But that's what's new and exciting with that. So if you have questions on it, read that last notice, the 2024-04 notice about the deadline. So
we are still waiting for them to tell us what to do with software, by the way.
Right. So back to there's no update.
Yeah.
Guess what else we don't have? Forms and a MAC guide and a final spec. Details.
So, again, I feel like forms started back in 2001 or something.
I feel like I was in high school when we started talking about it. I know.
Like, seriously, forms. So, I think we should start a pool because they're telling us we should have them by July.
They were hoping by July.
Yeah.
So let's do that math, shall we? Because this came up at the NAMA meeting and everyone sort of, I don't know. I didn't know if I thought there were going to be pitchforks and torches or stunned silence. It was kind of a combination of the two.
Or just laughter. Hysterical laughter.
I mean, at this point, that's probably what I was doing in the back of the room. Yeah. I was just laughing because I was like, well, yeah, well, whatever. All right, so think about that. We get new forms, and we get a mat guy, and we get a final spec in July. HOTMA compliance is mandated as of January 1, 2025. Well, when do you guys start doing those January 25 ARs? September or October. So that means July, your vendors will get forms, and by July, let's just go ahead and assume end of July. That means August, we're coding forms, making the whatever modifications need to be made with the final spec and the MAT guidelines. Maybe there's some testing, maybe it's not. And the surprise is September and you need to do your ARs. So in the past, there has been this, we'll call it a handshake agreement where we get 6 months from the time that we get a final spec and we get forms to code those changes, test those changes, test submissions to the tracks database. That'd be a cool thing if we could do that.
That would be amazing.
That'd be awesome. And we have time to do that. And then we give you guys then 3, 4, 5, 6 months to gradually roll that out. Now, we know there's always some stragglers that at the last day when it's effective, we as software vendors go in and flip a switch for you because you haven't gotten there yet. But you have time to roll it out, especially if you have a lot of properties. You want to get them trained. You want to put a few on, test it out, make sure we're good. You're not just ripping the Band-Aid off. Guys, we're ripping Band-Aids in September or October. That's just how it's going to be.
I mean, we're just going to be right there with y'all, right? If we have to hold your hands, we have to hold your hands. But it's, y'all might as well get ready for the craziness.
Right. So it will be a little crazy. As Rue said, we're right in there with you. We're going to be doing our best. We have coded as much as we possibly can. I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but we have an idea of what that final 5.9 is going to look like. Somebody was kind enough to share it with us. So we've already coded to it.
Don't tell anybody she said that.
No, it's super secret. But we have it, what we think it is. Obviously, we don't have an approved one because nobody has that. But we're doing our best to stay on top of those changes and get those things coded and get it tested as much as we can before we get confirmation that it truly is done and ready to go. So we're trying to build in as much of a buffer for you guys as we can. But as Rue said, we're in it with you.
Yeah, I hope for all the software vendors out there, for all of you different users of different vendors, I hope that they've managed to get their hands on a copy of that as well, and they've started working on it too. And look, this is one of the times that it's real important for all of the vendors to kind of stay in communication, and we're all in this together. We're all working on this together. So everybody's sharing a lot of information.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, it is definitely one of those times where it is in the industry's best effort for people to share information. Make sure we're all coding things the same way so that one vendor doesn't interpret something one way and someone interprets it another, which is also an issue that the trainers are having. So they're meeting together as well because that came up at NAMA too. There was something that, one trainer interpreted one way and one another.
And that includes the agencies as well.
Yes.
So everybody, we have created a working group.
The unofficial, super secret.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just out of sheer necessity, to be honest. Because there aren't formal working groups that are still being hosted.
Right. We can't call it a working group.
Right. So there's an informal gathering of stakeholders. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, there you go.
Isn't that nice? I just named it. And I'll say there's two. Are you coming up with an acronym?
I'm trying, yes.
Okay. You keep thinking about that for a second. So there's the unofficial...
IGOS, informal gathering of stakeholders.
Okay, sure.
IGOS.
Okay.
IGOS.
And then there's IGOTS because the trainers do it too.
IGOTS.
So
IGOS and IGOTS.
I'm just gonna. Wow, I'm gonna need a minute. That's pretty good.
That's pretty awesome.
There's a lot of acronyms. I don't know why we can't come up with our own. So there you go.
There you go.
We're gonna start calling it that. It's gonna take off. It's gonna be amazing. We'll make T-shirts. One thing that I will say too that is interesting. God love them. We know our tax credit friends, the state finance, housing finance agencies tend to do their own thing, right? Last count, there were 14 that went, you know what? We like this HOTMA stuff. Here's a HOTMA tick. Go with the HOTMA rules. Let's just do it. We're going to do it now. Let's do it. Which is kind of interesting because one of the things that's still up in the air is asset calculations, and we're not really sure how we're going to do it. So I'm really, really not sure how those 14 states are doing it. But if your state is one of them that has said you need to implement HOTMA and here's your new tick, I will tell you, have some patience with your vendor. The states are doing that. They're not telling people publicly. They're not informing software vendors necessarily. So sometimes we don't know till you know, even though we do regularly monitor their websites and look for form changes. We do that all the time anyway, right? But especially now with some of them releasing HOTMA
kind of being on that deal.
Yeah. And look, I will tell you, we're fortunate we can turn those around pretty quickly. Just a matter of days, to be honest. We just need to code the change, test it, and off you go. If you are in that situation, make sure you're communicating with your vendor. Make sure you share that tick with them, and they'll do their best. And again, back to our IGOs, that was one of the conversations that we were having is we were talking amongst ourselves about states that we were aware of that had those ticks and making sure that we were all on the same page. Did you like how I worked that into that
I
sentence,
did, yes, I did. I might have an unofficial version of a workbook that is updated as much as it can be because, again, all of us don't always know until one of our customers tells us. But if you're curious about it, reach out to me. And I'll see what kind of information I can dig up on your HFA.
Kind of scared me a minute when you were like, I have this unofficial source. I'm like, I guess we all have our unofficial sources today. This is awesome. We got all those super secret. Like me. I know. I feel like we're going to be on double secret probation or something. So that's crazy. Yeah, that's where it helps to have your vendors who are well connected and have their back channel resources. So it's fantastic. Alrighty, so that's the latest on HOTMA and Tracks 203A.
Yay, we get to talk about something else.
I know. So again, when we know something else, you'll know something else. But
by the way, we're as tired of it as y'all are. So
I don't know what we're going to talk about next year.
We may be more tired of it than y'all are.
It's very possible. So, yeah, just know that things are going to start getting crazy around the April time, or not April, July time.
I'm going to throw one more thing in there too. Look, your software is going to cover some of the changes, but it's not going to cover all the changes. And there is some training out there available for you guys right now. So please, if somebody from your company has not had HOTMA training, please make an effort to reach out and get some HOTMA training. There's some really good trainers out there that are offering classes. And again, if you need some information on one of them that's doing it, hit me up and I'll be happy to send you some referrals. So.
Yeah, we absolutely know of a couple. Yeah. We have a couple on the IGOT side that are offering their trainings.
That's right.
So I'm going to make this take off now that you've come up with it.
IGOT?
It's going to happen.
What is it? IGOT and IGOs.
IGOs and IGOTs.
IGOs and IGOTs.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
IGOTs to goes. I did it.
One of the other favorite things after we come back from DC is to talk about legislative items. Hooray, legislative
items. Get your mad pants on.
Yeah.
There's some stuff, man.
There's stuff. Alrighty, so the Renter's Bill of Rights continues to be a very hot topic, and there are some things that have happened recently. So, we talked about HUD got busy. Well, the White House got kind of busy too. So, February 29th, there was a fact sheet that announced some new actions to boost the housing supply and lower housing costs. So, they're looking at a few different ways to do this. They want to bolster federal programs with a proven track record of producing affordable housing. They want to boost the supply and affordability of manufactured homes, and they want to promote fairer and more transparent rental market. So in the notice, they are clarifying banned non-rent fees in HUD-assisted properties. So you hear people talk about junk fees. That's what they're referring to.
That's a big one.
I know, right? They are adopting the Tenant Bill of Rights at all 200 Department of Defense bases by the end of the year. So this spreads beyond multifamily and crosses over into Department of Defense.
Is that like military housing?
Yes, ma'am. They are going to publish a fact sheet highlighting situations in which housing providers may not evict or threaten to evict someone. And then the FTC, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the DOJ, and HUD are going to jointly publish a fact sheet describing the rights that prospective renters have when being screened by housing providers. So you've got junk fees, you've got a list of people that you can't evict or can't threaten to evict, and you're going to have some screening guidance coming.
I've already seen a screening notice too.
Well, all right.
Yeah. If y'all want stuff on that, let me know.
So shortly after that, then on March the 4th, there was yet another fact sheet announcing new actions to lower costs for Americans by fighting corporate ripoffs. I couldn't make this up. That's literally the title of the fact sheet. It talks about corporate ripoffs, which is interesting.
Bad landlords.
Right. So there's a new strike force that was launched to crack down on unfair and illegal pricing, including ending excessive credit card late fees, eliminating junk fees. There we go again. But they extended junk fees to also include things like fees for live ticket events, internet and cable fees, apartment rentals. There's our junk fees we were talking about, banking fees and auto dealer fees, and also banning bulk billing for a particular internet, cable, or satellite service.
How are we going to make a living?
I'm sure you weren't the first person in the room to ask that.
Just curious.
Yeah. So that's what's going on with the Renters' Bill of Rights. So the other hot topic around the time of NAMA was appropriations and were we going to have a government shutdown? What was going to happen? So on Saturday, March 9th, President Biden signed into law H.R. 4366, the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2024, which provided full year funding through September 30th of 2024, which is the end of the fiscal year for HUD. And this funding applies to departments and agencies of the federal government covered by 6 of 12 appropriation bills. And that includes our friends at the Department of Housing and Urban Development. So just a quick rundown on some numbers for how that looks for HUD. That means $1.25 billion for the Home Investment Partnerships Program, $32.4 billion for tenant-based Section 8 vouchers. She's making faces if you're just listening.
Yeah.
$16 billion for the project-based rental assistance housing program. And this includes $468 million for the PBCA program. So HUD has been very clear that they don't have the bandwidth to take this on in-house. So there is funding to continue that program. There's $913 million for the Section 202 program. This includes $112 million for service coordinators. I know we hear about that often.
Yeah, we hear about that a lot.
Yep. $208 million for the Section 811 program. And then where I think it got really interesting is $1.608 billion for the Section 521 rental assistance program. So the interesting thing is that the Act says the agreement accepts the department's proposal to decouple the rental assistance program from Section 515 direct loans. This strategy should only be used when other methods of preservation are exhausted and should prioritize properties that are near maturity in implementing this policy. The agency directs the departments to have a strong stakeholder engagement and to provide the committees with monthly updates on the implementation of this policy. So decoupling this from Section 515, the concern there is a loss of rental housing units. So,
yeah, because when you decouple that, then it just becomes market, right?
Mm-hmm. Which is not affordable for rural housing areas.
Right.
Yep. So there was a lot of talk about that from our rural housing friends.
You know, it kills me. They talk about all this in fancy language, and if they would just say, hey, we're talking about doing this, I think that they'd probably get a lot more reaction to it.
Right, because if you don't understand or read that fine print about decoupling, then you would go, oh, that's great. Look at all that money that went to that program. Yeah, well, there were strings attached to it.
I just feel like this right here, whether it's decoupling that or making it so difficult for the new requirements that are going on out there and taking away fees and things like that, I'm just curious to see when everything is said and done. Man, you think there's a shortage of affordable housing now?
How many people are going to opt out?
What reason?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, give us a breadcrumb or something.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm particularly concerned to see where we go with the screening guidance.
Yeah, you know, I should have showed you what I got. It really just talks about all the rights that you have as a renter when there's, you know, how to dispute things and what your landlord needs to provide you, which is, you know, the adverse action and things like that. So,
okay.
But it really just told them, ensure that everything that you give them is correct so that they've got the best chance to get back correct data.
Two more things to cover on legislative topics. One is about broadband and the digital divide. So, again, there was a whole lot of activity around February and March. So February 8th, HUD issued a press release encouraging affordable housing facilities to help states and territories determine where to direct grant funding to expand high-speed internet access by participating in the BEAD Challenge. So here's another acronym for us. So the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program provides just a little over $42 billion in federal grant funding to deploy reliable, affordable, high-speed internet infrastructure to everyone in America, particularly unserved or underserved communities. So all 50 states, U.S. territories, District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico are going to receive funding to administer their own sub-grant programs to build infrastructure in communities across their states. So good news there. And then the last update is about the clean energy tax credits. So March 5th, there was a press release that was issued by the Treasury Department and the IRS announcing the release of final rules on key provisions in the Inflation Reduction Act to expand the reach of the clean energy tax credits and help build projects more quickly and affordably. So the Inflation Reduction Act came out a while back, and as we see, once things kind of start to be adopted and start, going into practice, we have a little bit of clarity that we need there. So that's really what this press release was about. So Treasury's elective pay final rules provide certainty for applicable entities to understand the law's scope and the requirements for eligibility. And the final rules also lay out the process and timeline to claim and receive an elective payment. Now, the final rules on transferability will be finalized in the near future. So that means we'll have another press release maybe in a month or so when they come out with some more final rules. So that is our legislative update from our time in DC. It is a lot. Like I said, there was a flurry of activity. So, we say this all the time. If you're not a member of an association, you should be. The associations that we belong to are very good about sharing information, making sure their members are very well informed, and then also giving them talking points to go and talk to their representatives whenever they feel that's appropriate.
And they're also very good about representing their member companies.
Yes.
On the Hill.
Yes, they do a good job of that
Very
as
good
well.
about being involved in that.
Yes. All righty. You ready for my little lightning round of other topics that we covered?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. So Inspire.
Ooh.
I know. Inspire. Feels like we've been talking about this one for a while too.
We have.
So one of the things that they talked about in Inspire was talking about score distributions. So for multifamily housing to date, the Inspire score distribution hasn't really changed drastically from what we saw under UPCS. So multifamily properties that perform well under UPCS are generally performing well under Inspire, which you would expect to see, right?
Right.
So the Inspire scoring is working as anticipated. So certain properties that were previously kind of in the middle of that range for UPCS scores tend to get pushed toward a higher, which is a 90 or above, or a lower, which is a below 59 Inspire score, depending on the number of critical health and safety conditions that come up as part of that inspection. So makes sense, right? There's not so much middle. You're either doing really well or you've got some challenges.
Well, and the other thing I would add too is if you've been living the Inspire world for a minute, this time when we were in DC, it was a whole good bit calmer of a session.
Yes, I would agree.
There was not as much turmoil. There were not as many unhappy owner agents in the room. And it feels like this is actually starting to really kind of calm down and go well.
So what was interesting to note is the largest overall score deduction is attributable to the exposed electrical conductor defect, with a total deduction of more than 4 times greater than the next highest defect. So in total, electrical, egress, and fire safety defects impacted scores more than any other type of defects. So if you have an inspection coming up, maybe check your exposed electrical conductors.
I mean, I got to say
they're looking for it.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that too.
If you're going to find something to pick on about the property, I don't think that that's a bad thing.
Yeah, they don't think so either. So watch for that. All right. The other topic of conversation, USDA, that unit inventory loss. Again, that kind of goes back to what we talked about with the funding and the decoupling from the Section 521 program.
And there's probably not enough of those units out there anyway for our farm workers.
Probably not. Management and occupancy reviews. So there was a guidance memo published October 20th of last year stating that required and alternative MOR procedures for PBCAs. They've reinstituted the practice of on-site MOR. So they're basically reversing what they did during COVID, where they said, hey, you don't have to do these in person. You can do them remotely. Well, now they're saying, now you got to get back on site. So that was effective with MORs. It was scheduled on or after January 1st of 2024. So if you have one coming up, not going to be remote. You're going to actually have somebody on property. PBCA program, I mentioned earlier in the Appropriations Act, there was some funding set aside for that. So really no change here. HUD is still awaiting legislative action to allow the program to function as it is with some improvement. There's no capacity to bring it back in-house. And as we've said before, we expect some lawsuit to be filed as soon as they come out with however they're going to do this. And they expect it to. It'll be fun. You remember when we were talking about rebidding those contracts?
I mean, that's been like 2008 or 9 anyway.
Yeah, yes. That was 3 jobs ago for me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Oh, and we're not job skippers, by the way.
We are not skippers. But yeah, that's how long ago that was.
That's crazy.
If you're not sure how long ago that was, look up our LinkedIn profiles and count back 3 jobs.
Appalling is what it is.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Ooh, I wonder why Marcia Fudge retired.
Also, that happened. I forgot to add that to my update because that was breaking news the day we were originally putting this together. Yeah, so Secretary Fudge retired.
So let's talk about rents and interest rates.
Yeah, let's do that. So we are starting to see some lower rent inflation. The market is still pretty tight in most areas. As we've talked about before, interest rates are slowing acquisitions for some companies. We know others are watching for sites to default as balloon payments come due. I know that, and as we talk to our customers, there are certainly a number of them that have funds. They're just waiting to see what happens. And I'm starting to see that pick up a little bit more in the first half of this year. Good Lord, it's only March. In the first quarter of this year than we saw for most of last year. It was really down overall last year. And I was looking at the last 12 months and watching the trend line that we were seeing on acquisitions really start to, not a dramatic dip downward, but certainly trending downward. So hopefully
it's going to flatten out. You hear things and then you see different things, right? So
for sure.
It's very interesting what's going on out there right now.
For sure. You know what else is going on right now? Fraud.
Lots of fraud.
Lots of fraud. So this came up back in October in NAMA. It was a topic again. Members are still noting an increase in fraudulent documents submitted by applicants. And as technology improves, so does fraud, the ability to get away with it. So
does the fraud detection, though, as well.
That's true, too. That can improve as well. So my advice there is if you don't have something to help you monitor this, there are products out there. We might have known one.
Yeah, we might know one.
We might know one. But it's definitely becoming more and more prevalent, which is unfortunate. And what we've heard from people is it is much cheaper to invest in technology than to deal with the consequences of having someone end up in your property that shouldn't be there. So there was still some talk about insurance, really no change there. People are still struggling to get insurance in a lot of markets. I know there's been a lot of activity. NAMA members have gone and testified. I really haven't seen much change over the last 3 months. Not a lot of activity other than people still struggling to get insurance. But it still is something that's noteworthy that people are talking about. And then really to wrap this up, I sat through a session that was about innovation at HUD, which you may think, my God, you have the most archaic technology, but sure, let's talk about innovation at HUD. What are you guys doing? So this was the HUD Office of Policy Development and Research who came in and presented on their initiatives. They really have 3 initiatives they're focused on. And I will say the person who spoke said she wasn't at liberty to talk about a lot of the things that they're doing, which I understand. So it's going to be really interesting to see what comes from this division at HUD. So I personally am probably going to be checking out their section of the HUD website to see what they're posting.
Okay, wait though. You said there was 3, but she couldn't tell you what they were.
Oh, I'm going to tell you what they are.
Oh, okay.
She just couldn't.
I was thinking
it wasn't like a giant teaser.
No, I was just going to be like, really? She can tell you that, but that's all they can tell you.
No, she didn't sit there for an hour and go, we're working on stuff. I'm just not telling you. She just said she can't give all the details.
Probably because they don't know them, but they might.
They might. So anyway,
super secret.
Probably. So the areas that they talked about, the first was housing construction, which was interesting because they said they are investing in research on off-site construction. So remember, think back to one of the fact sheets that I talked about that talked about manufactured housing. I think this is kind of connected to that.
Oh, or like modular too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they're investing in research on off-site construction and industrialized housing delivery. So yes, there's your modular stuff, as well as leveraging new sources of funding to decarbonize housing. And at that point, someone in the audience said, "Isn't carbon in everything? How does this work?" And I think that was one of those I can't tell you areas, because I remember getting a question about that before and went back and looked at my notes, and that was all she said. So AI. We hear about this a lot everywhere. So HUD is looking at this as well. So Executive Order 14110 requires HUD to issue guidance addressing the use of tenant screening systems in ways that may violate the Fair Housing Act or Fair Credit Reporting Act, as well as how relevant federal laws apply to the advertising of housing, credit, and other real estate related transactions through digital platforms. So really, the takeaway here is they're trying to make sure that AI is being used for good and it is not being used where it could result in some sort of discrimination or violation of federal law. So makes sense. And then the third area was data. This goes back to do you either get stunned silence or do you get chuckles in the room? Because there were certainly some comments here. But they said that HUD is looking for more ways to include private sector data sources to increase the accuracy of fair market rents, incorporate positive rental payment history into creditworthiness evaluations of first-time home buyers and FHA-insured mortgages. Here's where it got interesting. And expand data sharing efforts with other federal agencies to ease the process of applying for and receiving benefits. And that's when someone stood up and said, can you not talk to the people down the road where you have all the Social Security information and all these other things? Why are you asking sites have to verify it? You have all of it. Can you not just all talk to each other and share your data and make it so much simpler and also help reduce fraud? But good to know, policy development and research is looking into all those things. That was that. That was my lightning round of all of our fun topics at NAMA. So I will say it's not the only thing, because the last thing is it's an election year, Rue.
It's funny because you said that, because I was just about to say I felt kind of like an overall sense of ambivalence.
A little, but there was a lot of, well, we don't know what's going to happen, and so I think there's some wait and see. And again, thinking back to interest rates and acquisitions,
probably isn't the right word, but it just it was not everybody just, or maybe they're just tired.
I think they're tired.
They're just tired.
I think they're tired. I think they're tired. So one of the things, that we get asked is, what are we hearing? What's in store? So it's like, okay, if I had a crystal ball, which I don't. So let's be real clear. I do not have a crystal ball.
Really cool if you did, though.
Man, I would have to use those powers for good. But yes, one of the things that they did say is that we can expect to see an increase in executive orders over the next few months. That's pretty typical of an election year. There's a flurry of activity in the first half of the year. And then after that, things slow down, both in terms of executive orders. Legislative activity is going to slow down because then suddenly everybody's very concerned about their campaigns and they're busy trying to get reelected. I do think housing is still going to be a hot topic, especially as there's still a lot of talk about the Renters' Bill of Rights.
It has to be a hot topic.
Yeah. Yes. There are certain things, and we've heard this at another conference before. They talk about kitchen table topics, right? So you think about what do things cost, and inflation, housing, things that impact everybody in this country are going to be hot topics. And the other thing that is really, really interesting, that there are 44 House members and counting, and 8 senators who are not running for reelection. So we know that there's always some turnover, right? But knowing that we're going to have 44 House seats and 8 Senate seats that are absolutely going to turn over, that means you have that many new people coming into legislation who are going to need to be educated on issues. So I would expect then 2025, you're going to see all of our industry association friends up on the Hill, talking to people, educating them, talking about bills and legislation that need to be passed. So again, look for a little more activity between now and June and things to really taper off through the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. That's the down low from DC.
That was a lot.
That was a lot. We were very busy.
We were.
You know what? We're still really busy.
We're still going to be busy too.
Yeah.
We're going some places.
Yeah. We are going a lot of places. I feel like I live at the airport.
So it's so fun though.
I'll just have my mail forwarded there.
We love our life.
We do. We do.
Oh, except when we sit in the back. Way back. I don't mean just not in first class. I mean in the way back.
That is steerage.
No fun.
Yeah.
I meant in the back of the plane when it's bumpy. That's what I hate. All right. Y'all don't really care about that. But you might care about where we're going to be. So I'm going to tell you real quick. We've got a few little things planned, which I am ready to get back out on that road again and see you guys. So we're going to be at Sama, Kentucky. Super excited about that. That's April the 10th and 11th. We're actually going to do a live podcast of Cocktails and Compliance at TAA One, which is really exciting. And it actually starts off the day's group of affordable sessions. So if you're going to be at TAA One, 9:00 Thursday morning on the 25th.
And in case people are like, but wait, you're going to do it first thing in the morning? There are breakfast cocktails, people.
Oh, yeah. We're going to come have a Bloody Mary with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. And I wish we had an agent for all these things that you're about to talk about, but keep going.
We've got some really good guest panelists joining us there, too. We're going to have Sarah Henson from the Allied Orion Group, and we're going to have Cecilia Casio from Marquee Asset Management. So we are going to talk about all things compliance related and anything that specifically impacts Texas. We will be at MAMA, which will be in Indianapolis on May the 2nd. We will be, of course, at Apartmentalize in Philadelphia on June the 19th. Come and see me. Maybe we can go have some really good Italian food, or maybe we can go find a casino to hang out at. We're going to be at CAR, of course, in June 24th. Another live session of Cocktails and Compliance coming up at the Sama Leadership Conference, August 19th in Tampa. And then, of course, last but not least, our favorite thing that we do all year, our user conference, Resmania. And that is going to be in Plano, May the 20th through the 23rd. Again, a live session before a live audience. I was going to say live studio audience, but it's not really studio there. We'll have a session there on that. We've got some fantastic content. Really, really, really great industry-focused tracks at that conference, some fantastic speakers. So let me know if you want some information on Resmania. We'd love to have you there. And then one more couple of things on Resmania. So we have changed the format of that. So go to the resmania.com website. We've shifted things around a little bit. We have expanded our training offerings. We've gone from, I think it was 9 to 16 training sessions that Monday afternoon. And then I'm excited that we have some offsite events. But you know what we're going to do? One of those offsite events is a casino night. Yeah.
I am so excited.
That's going to be really fun.
Yeah. Super excited about that. So as Rue said, that's 3 live events that we have coming up between now and August, and then we have 2 more at the end of the year. So stay tuned. We're going to be talking about those, but this is why we said we need an agent to handle all of our bookings.
Y'all might get tired of us.
Or not.
Or not.
Or you're excited because maybe we'll be in an area that you're going to be, and you'll get to see us live and in person.
You can have a cocktail with us.
Which will be fantastic. But in the meantime, if you're not able to see us live, you can always catch our podcast on Spotify and Apple. 13 episodes, Rue.
Dang.
Man, that's wild.
You can find us on also on the Resman website, Prop Talk, Cocktails and Compliance, and that is and then ampersand, not the word and, Cocktails and Compliance, powered by Prop Talk.
Yep. If there's something you'd like for us to cover, reach out to us on LinkedIn. Hopefully we see you guys somewhere soon. We hope to see several of you at Resmania, but like we said, between TAA, NAA Apartmentalized, Car, Sama. We're all over the place. So we would love to see you. Hope to see you soon, or hope you listen. Thanks.
See you later.
Bye-bye.